We will start today's satsang with a question asked by a seeker. I have an issue. When I become centerless within body, I am out. Then, still the bodily happenings, presence of body being felt. How to come off it? How to come out of it? I want to be in other than body. This is your question. You are saying that at times you become centerless. You become centerless within body, and by that statement you have inferred that you have come out of the body. This is your first statement. What is this coming out of the body or getting out of the body and becoming centerless within body? Are they two things? First, you can immediately draw a correlation with the deep sleep state, with our deep sleep state. What happens in deep sleep? Who is existing? Whether the body is within the mind or the mind is within the body, whether the world is within the mind or the world is outside of the mind. The moment you say world, it is a concept held in the mind about this cosmos, including the immediate, your immediate location, all of the humanity, the whole of the earth, the planets, the solar system, and the universes, everything put together. The moment you say the cosmos, the universe, the world, all these words denote that everything that has come into appearance. Where do they arise? With your mind's disappearance, the world, with your physical body, with your identifications with the world, with people, with things, with your status, with your knowledge, all identifications through your body which you have acquired in time throughout your waking states, not only the waking states of this birth. There have been many births, many lives. This mind and the senses have taken before and will be taking henceforth. So all these acquisitions, called as registrations, identities, through body. If you examine our state of existence during our waking state very closely, you will know with body, physical body as a center, the subtle body called as a feeling, a thought, repeatedly arising in the mind. Patterns of thoughts arise in our mind constantly throughout our waking state. Though as a big pattern consisting of many thoughts, emotions, feelings, past, present, categorized as past, present and future, and identified with different locations and different places, physical places, where the body has lived as I, mine, etc. Through body only, the mind, the ego, the intellect, all the trio live. And through the body only, these trio experience all the experiences, either liking or disliking them. So, for anything and everything during our waking state, the reference point is only the physical body. First of all, we should know, we should discriminate, we should discern whether the body, the physical body, has any intelligence of its own, that you have to underline. Whether the physical body has any intelligence of its own. Even during the waking state, when we experience, when we do something, when you are totally immersed in an action, a physical action or a deep contemplative thinking, do you feel the presence of your body at that moment? You cannot. I cannot be both a speaker as well as the process of speaking at a given moment. The speaker is zoomed out behind the speech. He goes behind the speech, and the speech, the process of speaking, with the focus mainly zoomed in on the theme or the content of the speech, and the speech goes on coming out from a centerless center. At the moment of an action, you may be listening. At this moment of listening of this fact, do you feel the presence or absence of your body? Whether you are inside the body or whether you are outside the body, is there any identification at all? At this moment when you listen to this speech, if listening is happening through a centerless center in you, where is the question of the existence of body within the body or out of the body? Both are out of context. Body as a reference point for in as well as out doesn't exist. Doesn't exist at all. You start reading a book on which you have enormous interest. As the theme of the book catches hold of your interest and you are fully absorbed in reading it, what happens? Is the reader your physical body, your physical senses? No, not at all. The spirit, the essence of you has dissolved in the content, the theme of the book, in which you have merged, you have dissolved. The dissolution is called reading the book. The interest of reading the book is nothing but the dissolution of the physical body and the psychological center called the intellect. All these dissolve in the act of reading the book. That is what Ramana Maharishi, in one of his verses in Ulladu 40, this is the verse in Tamil. Sadavudal naaninnadu satchitudiyadu உடலளவாய் நானுன்றுதிக்கும் இடையில் இது சிச்சட கிரந்தி பந்தம் ஜீவனுட்பமை அகந்தை இச்சமுசாரம் மனம் எண். This is the verse given by him. Let us now go into the verse given by Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi. Statement by statement. Sadavudal naaninnadu satchittu udiyadu. See, in Tamil, the explanations are given. அறிவற்ற ஜடமாகிய உடலானது நான் என்று தானே சொல்லாது. See, just like the objects we perceive in the external world apart from our body, our physical body is also one among those objects existing in inert matter. The body is not intelligent. It never says, the hand never feels that it belongs to a such and such form called by a name. So it is not intelligent. I only say this is my hand, this is my leg, and those body parts, they never say, they never feel that it belongs to a particular subtle body called the mind or the intellect. The intellect and the mind, the subtle bodies, they only identify, like with any other objects, this is my car, this is my book, this is my family, this is my property. In the same way, it has assumed that the physical body is mine. It says, this is my body, this is my hand. But those hands or the body parts have never the feeling of identification, because they are basically inert. They are matter. They don't reflect the intelligence. On the one hand, this is the case of the body. On the other hand, the truth, the self-luminous, all-pervasive intelligence, which itself is the objects of the world, both within and without, and they are also nothing but the only supreme intelligence from the perspective of the supreme intelligence, not from the perspective of a separatively existing object. So, on the other hand, சத்தாகிய சிச்சுரூபமோ நான் என்று தோன்றாது. Sat means ever existing, dynamically active, all pervasive, and that is the only stuff which exists. Shortly we will be going into the HwS Sutras. There are 3 skillful means are given, especially in the very first skillful mean given by the Lord Shiva himself, Shambhu, and it is named as Shambhava Upaya. The experiences of that Shambhava, the Lord Shiva, the supreme intelligence, the dynamic awareness, emanating as all the energies, forces of this cosmos. The energy or the force exists in and through an atom also, as well as in a falling star or in a giant mountain. But this supreme intelligence separately will never arise in our mind as if a video shot or a photo still, and this is what is that intelligence, and it will never arise as I or I amness also. சத்தாகிய சித்ஸ்வரூபமோ நான் என்று தோன்றாது. It can never be objectified, in which everything is getting objectified. It objectifies everything, but the very stuff, that is what the very first sutram says, Chaitanyam Atma, that Sat and Chit, that easiness with intelligence reflecting within itself as easiness. For easiness to prevail, sustain at all moments, in all places, it is dynamically active and reflecting within itself as I, without this sort of a word or letter called I. The very pulsation is in the form of a self-revelation. That is what is the part, the nature, the property of that supreme intelligence as intelligence. Not only it is easiness, that easiness goes on, throbs within itself as I of everything, and in objects also, to the contours, to the periphery, it confines itself of the objects and pulsates as those objects with a separate name and a clear-cut form. So between these two, the explanation given in the verse, about the verse, இந்த இரண்டுக்கும் இடையில் உடலையே அளவாக கொண்டு நான் என்னும் அறிவுணர்ச்சி ஒன்று தோன்றுகிறது. He says objective feeling is an objective feeling which rises in between these two. One is the pure Sat and Chit, that is easiness and dynamic intelligence, and the other is inert matter, that is our physical body. Linking these two, there arises in between them an identification with the body, and the current of that identification is drawn. The objectification of that body as being mine or me or I or I amness, that current, like electricity, that it is drawn from that intelligence, and separately an objectified feeling of the physical body arises. This is what he says. This is the link. சடவுடல் நான் இன்னாது சச்சித்து உதியாது உடலளவாய் நான் ஒன்று உதிக்கும். To the periphery or to the circumference of the physical body, it confines the subtle body called the mind, confines within the contours of this physical body, and it starts identifying itself as I am, I am, I am. Throughout our waking state, all our psychological movements are always with reference to the physical actions. When I walk, I am going, I am coming, I am climbing, I am running, I am talking, I am eating. But no one understands what is the real meaning behind that I am. Whereas for an action, one can clearly define it within himself. As to the act of eating, the sentence is formed as I am eating. Yes, I am consuming something, I am taking my food. So that eating process is clearly defined within himself. Whereas, who is the eater? Who eats that food? The hand which picks up the food. It is not aware whether it is holding a sweet food or a sour food, a food of sour quality. And the taste buds in the tongue, when it is placed on your tongue, when you consume the food, the taste is felt through the taste buds in your mind. For that the physical brain helps. Here the physical brain is not important. The moment we say mind, it is an invisible energy always existing between the pure intelligence, abstract intelligence, supreme intelligence, dynamic intelligence, and inert matter. It exists between supreme intelligence and inert matter, that is our physical body. So even the physical brain, why are we saying that the physical brain is in inertia? It is tamas, it is not self-aware. That which is not self-aware is nothing but inert matter. A stone doesn't aware of its existence. Similarly, the case even up to the level of the sun and the moon and the earth. These objects in the space, they are not aware of themselves as a separate intelligence, because there is no subtle body at all. The only supreme intelligence in and through permeate them and appears as them. The only supreme intelligence appears as them. Similarly, the case of our physical body also. But between the physical inert matter, that is our physical body, and the supreme intelligence, there arises with the identification as I am, there arises this ego. The same ego is called in different names. Bhagavan alone, Ramana Maharshi alone, has explained the ego in such a fine detail, and he only has propounded a great way to completely annihilate this ego. That is why his method of inquiry or investigation is the most direct and immediate path to realize one's own self. And it is exclusively based on the science of the mind, the science of the physical things that appear as this cosmos. So he alone has clearly defined and has shown the way to completely come out of this ego, kill the ego, destroy the ego, the mediator between the supreme intelligence and the inert matter called this cosmos. When we say cosmos, it includes our physical body too. We will go to the verse. Idayil idu chit jada grandhi. Chit jada grandhi. Grandhi means knot. A knot automatically takes place the moment one identifies with his physical body and gets involved in an action. Any and every action is getting identified with that subtle body called the ego. That is why always a knot is created the moment an action takes place identifying oneself with the physical body. All the methods for self-realization in various religions especially are given only to get out of these identifications. Get rid of all the identifications. But Bhagavan alone has directly given, instead of the actions, get hold of the actor in you, the thinker in you, the doer of all the actions. You see who he is directly, because all the actions are for the actor. All the deeds are for the doer. Who really is the doer in every one of us? That you investigate. That is why this is given as the direct path to self-realization. By one word, he calls it as Chit Jada Grandhi, the knot between the supreme intelligence and the inert matter by the ego. Then Bandham, that is bondage. Then Jivan, the individuality. The individuality is the bondage. Why the individuality arises in one? Why one becomes, how one becomes an individual? One thinks oneself as the doer of everything. Especially the identification is with the body, with the physical body. That is why he is called an individual. He is also one among the objects of this cosmos, occupying a spatio-temporal reality, a fleeting reality in space and time. See, within our physical body, everyone is continuously associated with this intellectuality, with the intellect, and constantly doing one or the other in upgrading or advancing or becoming more, becoming better, becoming finer, becoming more knowledgeable, creating more wealth, creating more health, want to live longer. So all the kinds of psychological advancements, psychologically to advance one's own self, all these things take place ceaselessly throughout our waking states. And this is what is Jivan. Then Nutpamai means subtle body. See, the physical body is always felt, and we also perceive human beings as well as the objects of this world moment to moment through the same physical body. But the subtle body which perceives through this physical body is never seen. Can anyone apprehend a thought which is going in him and show it for his own eyes? Can it be shown for one's own perception? No. One can only feel the thought. One can only feel the feelings. One can live in time within oneself in his mind as 10 days ago, 15 days henceforth, I will be in some other country. I have an appointment, so I will be going there. I will not be available in India. So all these things are all within the mind, the mental images with time, they are built in time and space, and including the individual who is also taken to be an image in it, and goes on conceiving different images, ideas in time and space within himself. So that is why this is a subtle body. This is also a body. Anything which is called as a body exists in inertia. It is material movement. It doesn't have a self-luminous intelligence in it. That is why in sadhana satushyam, that is, 4 main practices are advocated in Hindu Vedanta. The very first is discrimination between the real and the unreal. Why the matter is called unreal? Because it is dependent on someone who perceives it, who identifies with it. It doesn't enjoy a separate existence. That is what is discrimination. So ultimately, when one regresses like this in investigation within himself, he comes to realize that there exists only a self-effulgent intelligence which never arises even for his mental eye, even for his intellectual understanding. It cannot be apprehended, comprehended. It is beyond comprehension. Any comprehension is nothing but a deep contemplation with words and feelings and video like visuals. Here, the supreme intelligence never becomes an object, because the analyzer himself is coming out of that same supreme intelligence. His very analysis is very seeking to apprehend it through his intellect or mind. That itself is the supreme intelligence. So that can never get objectified. So this is a fact. And the next name given is simply ego. Chijjada Grandhi means a knot of the supreme intelligence, knot of the supreme intelligence with the inert matter, then bondage, then individual, then subtle body, then ego, Mai, Nuppamai, Agandai, Ichamusaram. Ichamusaram means this cyclical way of material existence. This material existence, it revolves on its own axis. Just like how the earth revolves on its own axis, all the energies, all the reflections of the supreme intelligence, they are also supreme intelligence. It never keeps anything away from it. So there cannot be an object away, apart from the supreme intelligence. So it chamusaram, this samsara, sam means perfect, sara means essence, the perfect cyclical existence consisting of subtle gross material movements. All this, that is the forces, the energies and the physical things that are made to move out of those energies, made to revolve. But one difference between the science, and major difference between the science and the supreme intelligence, is supreme intelligence pervades the objects too, in and through. In an atom, it is the nuclei of the atom. It is the force in the atom to create protons, neutrons, electrons, positrons, all these things. It makes them to revolve around. And it itself is the nuclei. It itself is the electron. It itself is the proton, positron. All those particles. And it itself is the in-between space. And it itself is a falling star, in and out.
So there can never exist anything apart from this supreme intelligence at all. That is what here Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi has said. நான் இந்த தேகம் என்ற அறிவு தோன்றும் போது உலகமும் தோன்றுகிறது. அது தூக்கத்தில் ஒடுங்கும் போது உலகமும் அத்துடன் ஒடுங்குகிறது. இதைத்தான் நான் ஒன்று எழுந்த பின் எல்லாம் என்று சொல்லப்படுகிறது. He has given சிச்சட கிரந்தி, பந்தம், ஜீவன், நுட்பமை, அகந்தை, இச்சம்சாரம், finally manam also is given. But all names denote only one thing, that is the ego. That is the ego. The whole cosmos is held in the ego. The objective germination of a blade of grass contains an ego. It comes out from the mind of the God, that is the supreme intelligence. Throughout the universe, lot of galaxies, planets, stars, they are all revolving, rotating, circling themselves as well as the planets, circling themselves as well as the main star of it. So all these actions are all happening because in the hub and as well as throughout the space, the supreme intelligence pervades. What happens? That intelligence, when one is in deep sleep, it simply with that supreme intelligence, within that supreme intelligence, it dissolves. The identification with the physical matters, especially with one's own body and with the objects of the world, all these things, when one is in the active waking state, one transacts, one acts with his body and with the objects of the world and with persons, and all these actions together with the actor called the ego dissolves in one point, and that one point is nothing but the supreme intelligence itself. And again he wakes up. Who is waking up? The ego is waking up with its leftovers. But we as an integrated individual, we think we are an integrated individuals. No, we are fundamentally an assembly of ego folders. Ego folders parked in a particular station called the physical body is our birth. Ego folders containing millions of files parked, stationed in a physical body is called our birth. That is what happens at the time of death, when one's ego, together with all its registrations, moment to moment registrations which the ego acquires throughout its term of life, and those folders, just like as in deep sleep, how everything goes into darkness, oblivion, the same way it goes into that oblivion at the time of death, leaving the physical body there and then dead, and waits. It cannot even wait. It is going on configuring itself to assume another form, because without form, ego cannot extinguish itself, ego cannot express itself. I am attaching the bell meditation with this satsang. You will be hearing a bell sound with 40 seconds gap in between. Using this meditation, reflect on the facts that were investigated in this satsang.